Hi and welcome to another very exciting tutorial. Today we're going to use CloudKit and CloudKit.js to display location-based information, our current position that we'd like to share on a website. And we're going to use CloudKit on our iPhone, on the iOS end, and we're going to use CloudKit.js in our website, and we're also going to use a little Google API to display our current location, or the location that we have selected on a map. So as you can see here, I can share my location. I can type in, for example, a cool place in San Francisco. I can then send that. And as soon as I refresh my website, we have our cool place in San Francisco, and I can click on that and we have the exact same spot right here. And before we get started creating this CloudKit-based application, I'd like to tell you that if you'd like to learn how to create applications that are core data-based and how to save data locally on a device and also sync it with iCloud, then maybe you'd like to have a look at my newest Udemy course, which is completely about core data and how to save data efficiently. You can get it for just $10 at the moment and only until Sunday, which is July 31st. So just use the promo link in the video description below and you can get it for $10 and create amazing applications that use the power of core data. And if you have never worked with CloudKit before, I suggest that you have a look at this video first. It will tell you all about the basics of using CloudKit, because we're not dealing with the basics right now. We're going to focus on creating location objects and also accessing it with CloudKit.js. So now let's get right started and bring up Xcode. I'm using the Xcode beta here, and let's create a new iOS application, single view application here. Hit next and call it Locator. And since I have to be very specific with the organization identifier because it's used for the bundle identifier, I have to enter Brian Advent here and Locator here. And this is also very important for you if you create your application, that your bundle identifier corresponds with your CloudKit container. So let's hit next here and create that on the desktop. And now let's get right started with creating the user interface in our main storyboard. And the first thing we need to do here is actually bring up a map view. So I'm typing in map right here and bring up the map view. Let me position it maybe in the top left corner. Let's bring up some buttons here. The first one is going to be update location. The second one is going to be share location. And then let's set some constraints here. So I'm selecting my map view, pinning it to the left and to the top and to the right, and maybe fix it in height. And then we add those constraints, and also let's center our button horizontally. Let's add a vertical spacing here, and also here. Also center this horizontally and vertical spacing to this. And as you can see here, there's still a little misplacement here, so we update the frames and fix the misplacement, and our user interface is good to go. So let's start with the code, and to do so, let's bring up the assistant editor, and first of all, create an outlet for our map view and connect that. And we've got an error right here because we haven't imported MapKit yet, but we're going to do that in a second. And then also the update location. Let's create an action for that. Call it update location. And also the same thing for share location. Also creating an action here, share location. All right. So now with that done, let's close the assistant editor and bring up our view controller. So let me zoom in a little here. And first of all, let's deal with some import statements. As you can see, MapKit still gives us an error because we haven't imported that yet. So let's import MapKit. What we're also going to need, of course, is CloudKit. And since we want to update our locations, we will also need core location. And because we are using core location, we should also adopt the CL location manager delegate. And since we use a location manager, we should also create a property for that. So let's call it location manager and initialize it with the CL location manager. And the first things that we need to do here is in view.load. So first of all, we set the location manager's delegate to self. And then we have to deal with the update location function. And the update location function, so when we press the update location button, needs to check for our authorization status, because every time you use the user's location, you have to give the user a reason why we actually want to use its location. And to check for that, we need an authorization code. So let's create a constant here, all authentication code, and we use CL location manager and the authorization status. And then we check if the authorization code is equal to CL authorization status not determined. And also location manager, you want to check if there is if the location manager responds to a specific selector, which is the selector. Let's make sure all parentheses are set. CL location manager dot request when in use authorization. So we just want to see if our user did decide that we can use his or her location when the application is in use. And then we check if in our bundle main, and this is the new Swift 3 syntax already, so there is no NS bundle, main bundle, it's just bundle main, because we omit unnecessary words. And then we check object for info dictionary key, and we check for the NS location when in use usage description. And if this is not equal to nil, then we request the when in use authorization, and else we print no description provided. So what is all that talking about the description? So actually, when iOS 8 was introduced, we always need to specify this description in the info plist. So what we need to do is bring up the info plist and add a new key, and this is going to be the NS location when in use usage description. And then when we autocomplete that, Xcode translates that into privacy location when in use usage description, and the value that we can provide here is, for example, to update the map. And you should of course provide a better explanation in your real life projects, but for us in this tutorial that will just suffice. And with that we did everything right. So now that we have decided that when our authorization status is not determined, and when we listen to request when in use authorization, then we check if there is such a description available, and if it is, we request the when in use authorization, and if not, we just print that there is no description provided. And if nothing of this is true, so we have already determined that we can use the user's location, then we can call a function that is yet to be written, which we will call getLocation. So let's write that function, getLocation. And what we need to do here is actually just one thing, which is using our location manager and tell him that we want to start updating our location. And since we have adopted the CL location manager delegate, what we can also do now is implement the proper delegate method, which is location manager did update locations. So this is the delegate method that we want to use, and the first thing that we want to do is stop updating locations as soon as we have our location. So manager stop updating locations, and once we did that, we want to get our current location. So let's create an if-let statement here for the current location and assign the locations array's first object, which should be the current location. And then we will create a new current position constant and create a CL location coordinate 2D object. So CL location coordinate 2D, which we can initialize with the latitude and longitude we get from the current location coordinate latitude, current location coordinate longitude. I hope. Yes. All right. And with our new coordinate 2D object, we also create a new coordinate span. So a coordinate span, which is a map kit coordinate span, with a latitude delta and a longitude delta, which specifies the area we'd like to display, and the span is going to, or the longitude and latitude delta is going to be 0.1 for both cases. And now we also have to define the region, so let's create a constant for that, call it region. This is going to be an MK coordinate region, and we have to initialize it with a center and a span, and the center is our current position and the span is the coordinate span. So now that we have that, we can use our map view, set a region, and use our region, and can tell this to be animated. Then we also like to see a pin, so let's use a position pin, which is an MK point annotation, and we use the position pin and set its coordinates to the current position. We use the pin, can give it a title, which is going to be your position, and let's also give it a subtitle, position pin subtitle equals what an awesome place. All right, and then all we need to do is use our map view again, add the annotation, and this is going to be our position pin. And with that, we have actually finished our location manager, but for later use, let's also create another property, which we are going to call last known location. And this is going to be a CL location optional property. All right, so now we have our update location function. We have a get location function that starts the locating process. We then listen for location updates with the location manager delegate. We stop right after we have a new location, and we then update the map. And then now it's finally time to actually share our location. Therefore, we have our share location function right here. So let's make us some space here to fill in some code. And all we need to do here now is, first of all, check if we have a last known location. So if last known location is not equal to null, so if there is a location, we can create our CloudKit database object. And for that, create a database object, use CK container default and public cloud database. And then we should create an alert view that asks the user to give our location a title. So let's create a location alert object, which is going to be a UI alert controller. We initialize it with a title. Let's say your location. Enter a title for your shared location. And then of course we use not the action sheet but the alert as a preferred style. And then we have to give our alert controller some fields, a text field, and 2 buttons maybe. So let's use the location alert, add a text field with a configuration handler that gives us the possibility to use the text field and set a placeholder like your location again. And then we use the location alert again, add an action, which is a UI alert action with the title, let's say send, style default. We're going to implement the handler in a second, but let's still add the location alert, add action, UI alert action. Let's add a cancel button. So cancel, just style, cancel. We don't need a handler here. Let's make sure all parentheses are closed. And then there is a closing parentheses missing. And then all we need to do is present our view controller, which is our location alert. That's going to be animated. And we don't need a completion handler here. And now actually within this handler of our alert action, all the CloudKit magic happens. And before we implement the code, let me just bring up Safari here. This is my CloudKit dashboard. And as you can see, I have already created a specific record type for the purpose of our locator app. So I've selected a locator app here. I have a record type here, which name is position, and we have 2 fields here. One is location title, which is a string, and shared location, which is a simple location object or a location type. And we'll then use this CloudKit type to create our location objects right here in Xcode. So let's create a new location object right here using ckrecord and initialize it with a record type, which is going to be position. But before we fill our new location object with any data, we should check if we have data available in our text field. So let's create an if-let statement here. So if-let text field content. First of all, let's see if we have, if we can assign text. So location alert text fields first, because the text fields is an array, and we use the first element because we only have one element or one text field in our location alert, and then we use the text property, and then we will also check if location alert and text fields dot text first dot text is not equal to an empty string. Then we have definitely information available, and then we paste our new location object right here, and then we can use new location, access its fields with brackets, and using the location title, and assign our text field content, which is a string. And then we can also use new location, access its shared location field, and then simply assign self last known location. All right, we can explicitly unwrap that because we already know that last known location is not equal to nil. And with that done, we can actually now use our database and simply call save. We want to save our new location record, and then we can check with the completion handler here if there was an error. So we can check if error is not equal to nil. So if there was an error, then we can print the error and its localized description, only if that is the case. This is all the code that we actually need to write in Xcode. So let's now have a look at our locator project and the capabilities. And there you must make sure that you have activated your iCloud capability. I'm going to activate that now. So also make sure that once activated, also make the check mark, activate the check mark where it says CloudKit. And with that done, we can now test our application and see if we can save any data and if this works. And here is our simulator. And let's update the location. And now we are asked to allow locator to access our location because we want to update the map. Okay, we allow that. And we should now be able to update the location and be in London. And if that does not work for you in the simulator, make sure that you have a location set here. So you edit your scheme in the top left corner and you have a look at the options right here. And then you can allow location simulation and change the default location. So if I now select San Francisco, I run the application again and bring that up. Then we update the location again, and we are now located in San Francisco. And we can share our location by pressing the Share Location button, or we should be able. But I think I know what we forgot to do because we have the last known location property here, and check if this is nil. And we have made this an optional to make sure that it can be nil. And at the moment we can display our alert view because it is nil, because we forgot to update it right here. So let's use last known location equals to the current location that we got in our location manager delegate. So let's run our application again. Open up the simulator. And now let's update the location back to San Francisco, share our location, and let's say, again, in San Francisco. And now that we sent that, we can have a look at our locator CloudKit.js application, reload our website, and as you can see, again in San Francisco is now in our list. We can click on it, and as you can see, we have the exactly correct coordinates here, just as we have in the simulator. Now let's have a look at how we can actually implement this CloudKit.js application. And before we do anything, let me just show you that just enter Google Map API JavaScript in Google, and then you get this website, and then follow the instructions for get a key, and you will need that key in order to display a map in a JavaScript application. And in addition to this Google API key, you will also need an API access token from CloudKit. And you can simply generate one for yourself in the admin area in your CloudKit dashboard by using the API access button right here, and then simply generate a token for your personal use. And now that we have covered all of the API key stuff, let's bring up a simple text editor, and you will get both the locator HTML file and the cloud location.js file in the resources section in the video description. And I'm going to walk you through some of the most important aspects right here. So let's first of all have a look at the head in our locator HTML file. And as you can see, we import a lot of stuff right here. We're using Bootstrap for the user interface. We're using Knockout.js to connect the data that we gathered with our HTML. We of course use the cloud location.js file and import that. And of course, we need to use the CloudKit.js API from Apple and the Google Maps API. And here's actually one important URL where you need to insert your API key from Google. So just paste that right here. And that's actually all we need to import. And the script right in the bottom of our HTML file is also some sample code from Google, which creates a map with a specific latitude and longitude so that we can display something before we have clicked on one of our elements. And here in the container div, there's actually all the action going around. And all these data binds work together with Knockout.js. For example, we can use a for each here to create kind of a loop that generates one block with coordinates and title for every result that we get. We can even connect these data binds with events like click to actually initialize our map once we clicked on one of the location titles. And as you can see here, we use location title and shared location from our CloudKit fields that we have created in the dashboard and also accessed from Xcode. And we can simply access their values by writing a .value right after it. And also here, after writing value, we can access its real properties like latitude and longitude. And now let's head over to the CloudKit JS file, to the cloud location JS file. And as you can see, first of all, we need to add an event listener for CloudKit loaded, and then configure CloudKit and its container. And here you have to insert your container identifier, which is kind of your bundle ID with an iCloud in front of it. And here's the place where you actually insert your API token, which is really important, otherwise it won't work. And all this stuff here is actually where we generate our locator view model and work together with Knockout.js. And as you can see here, after creating self and our container, where we simply use CloudKit and get default container, and then the public database by using the container and get the public cloud database, which is pretty similar to what we do in Xcode. And now in respect to using Knockout, we create an array of location objects and use Knockout and make an observable array. And here we also create an observable string, both times using the Knockout API. And then we use our fetch records and create a function that actually queries through our CloudKit database. And with all of the results, we attach them to the locations array, and we can then iterate through those locations using for each in our HTML. And then we simply have our init map function right here, and therefore we use the location parameter and the fields and the shared location, and again the value and the latitude and longitude, to access the information from CloudKit. And also important is to set up the authentication. We don't have to sign up or sign in here because our records are public, and we can use the container to set up the authentication. And once we did that, we can then fetch the records right here. And then also we need to call Knockout and apply the bindings by then calling the locator view model that we have right here. And with this simple code, we actually created the example that I have showed you in the beginning. So let's just have a look at that again. And as you can see, for every element that we have in our CloudKit database, by using this data bind and for each, we generate this part, or this is the specific section. And because we have applied an event here, we can actually change our location in the map by clicking on one of the elements right here. So this was our trip to the world of CloudKit.js and the connection with Xcode and the CloudKit dashboard. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.